And for those of you new just joining us for the first time, welcome in. Make sure to hit that follow button. We are live most Saturday nights with F1 League Night. As our grid is forming up, we are just waiting for those lights to go out, and we are officially underway for our 8-lap sprint race here as Farmer Ginge leads the way into corner 1 on the intermediates, it looks like. And we've got several cars going wide at turn 1. Everyone all over the place. No contact, though, so no major incidents, just some wide racing there. And Farmer Ginge now already a second ahead of Daniel Bontempo. We've got a lot of shuffling around already here. Link's Worst Nightmare up to 3rd. Daniel Bontempo up to 2nd. Ishkabibble up to 4th. Moises down to 8th. We're seeing a lot more shuffling around here. We've got a caution out. It looks like we may have a car off track. Looks like that is the Red Bull of General Whitney here. That is at turn number 8. Don't see any front wing damage, so he should be good to continue as we continue underway here. No virtual safety car or safety car released. We are still green flag racing. Oh, and Ishkabibble wide, and almost causing an incident as he comes back on. That's at turn 14-15, and Daniel Bontempo with the track limits penalty already on lap 1. So conditions very, very slick here. And everyone on the intermediates here, no one deviating from that. And that Haas there of Coffee Black. Oh, and we've got a little bump there at turn 18, and another bump from Moises. And Paulie and Moises have both gone into pit here. And SD Bookie with a 3-second penalty for track limits, so 2 penalties on the first lap. Hey, Windy, massive welcome in, buddy. Thank you for the sub, much appreciated. And on board with Muffin Brain here in the McLaren in 7th, currently about half a second back on the Red Bull of Ishkabibble for 6th. Much appreciate that, Wendy. Hope your stream went well. If you're still live when I'm finished, if I have anyone left, be sure to rage it tonight. But with the time difference, don't wait up for me, buddy. And Link's Worst Nightmare now in 4th in the Alfa Romeo, just about a second back on Lieutenant Spartacus here. Let's take a look at the changes here from the start of the race. Big dropper, Moises down 13 spots, all the way in 15th, and F1 Original Paulie down 3 spots, currently in 14th. Coffee Black down 2 in 10th, and Wubby's 210 down 1 spot in 11th at the moment. However, our big gainers up 5 spots, the Williams of Dirty Liberal, and up 4 spots, the Ferrari of Pizza Dog, both in 8th and 9th respectively. And then Muffin Brand up 3 in 6th, and everyone from 5th to 2nd has gained 1 spot. Meanwhile, SD Bookie in 12th, currently up 1 spot, and General Whitney up 2. Farmer Ginge with a 154.230 for the fast lap of the race at the moment. And there is a bonus point here for any driver that finishes in the top 10 with the fast lap. And you can see Paulie and Moises still opting for the intermediate tires. However, that gap with these wet conditions likely not going to favor them getting a great finishing position here unless we see a virtual safety car or safety car of some sort come out. Moises overtaking Original Paulie as he goes back into pit now. It looks like he may in fact have some front wing damage there, and in fact he does. They are going to pull off the front wing and he will get a new set of tires on as well. Meanwhile, Farmer Ginge out front with a 3-second lead. over Daniel Bontempo in the Williams right now, and Lieutenant Spartacus in the Alpine almost a full second back on Daniel Bontempo right now, and Link's Worst Nightmare a second back on Spartacus. So everyone pretty much kind of getting settled in here, a second or more back across the grid with a few exceptions, kind of middle of the pack between 7th and about 10th. And you can see here we are watching the Red Bull of Ishkabibble and the Ferrari of Pizza Dog just behind him, about half a second, in the McLaren of Muffin brand just about half a second ahead of Ishkabibble, about 6/10, make that 7/10 now at turn 14. And through turn 16 and 17 here, this can be notorious in the wet. It's such a high speed, it is very easy to break the car loose there with the lower grip levels. And you can see Pizza Dog closing that gap, Coffee Black getting around Dirty Liberal, and looks like a little bit of contact there as well, as Dirty Liberal gets slow around right there just at the exit of turn, looks like 18 into 19 right at pit entry, but he is back underway. And under wet conditions, we will not see any DRS activity whatsoever, so that rear wing will stay closed until conditions dry up. In the event they do, likely not going to happen with an 8-lap race, though. And Ishkabibble closing that gap up nicely down to 4/10 there as they come into turn 5 down the straightaway. However, he has lost most of that as he's now 9/10 back on Muffin brand coming into turn 8. And Dirty Liberal regains 9th from Coffee Black. Not sure if that was a give back by Coffee Black or if Liberal went around on his own. May have been contact and Coffee Black giving that position back as a courtesy, rightfully so if that's the case. Moises getting a 3-second penalty now for track limits, so we've got 3 drivers with track limit penalties now. That of Daniel Bontempo in 2nd, SD Bookie in 12th, and then Moises in 14th. And that gap from our current race leader, Farmer Ginge, now 4.5 seconds over Daniel Bontempo. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Spartacus starting to catch up to Daniel at about 6/10 back. So we may see a little bit of a battle start to develop here. However, Daniel Bontempo may have to try to serve that penalty if he wants a decent finish here, but it's going to be difficult because it will have to be under green flag conditions. As it sits right now, if this race was to finish, Daniel Bontempo would drop from 2nd to at least 5th. And Spartacus closing that gap now at exactly 1/10 there, a little almost under 1.5 tenths. He's going to make the move as we go into Rouge, and it's going to be tight. This is a very sketchy spot, and they bump. They're around, and both of them are around, but avoid contact with the barriers. Both of them reset the track, but both will lose a position or two here. Ishkabibble through, Scavenger through, Link's Worst Nightmare through. Lieutenant Spartacus is going to drop there from 3rd all the way into 6th and now 7th, and Daniel Bontempo is going to drop from 2nd to 8th. And that one's likely to get reviewed, and that is one that we will see what's going to happen here. It's one of the most dangerous areas at Spa to try to overtake without saying anything here. That is such a very high-speed corner, and any sort of off-camber entry into it can really throw you kind of off pace, and it's very easy to make a mistake and bump, which we saw there between the two of them. If I had to wager a guess, I think that's going to be called just more of a racing incident. And that one will definitely get reviewed by stewards here after the race tonight. So expect probably some communication on that in the next day or so. And now Pizza Dog and Lieutenant Spartacus battling for 6th. Pizza Dog ahead in 6th place in the Ferrari. Spartacus in the Alpine in 7th, trying to close the gap. 4.5 seconds, or excuse me, 4.5 tenths of a second back and closing. Now, actually, he's going to go for the move here, it looks like. Another sketchy spot here, 16 and 17. He does manage to go by before they go into 16. So that is a good sign. No contact there. And I suspect we may want to watch Daniel Bontempo here as we come to start lap 7. If he can close that ground to Lieutenant Spartacus, he's going to have to be watching his mirror, I think. And Daniel Bontempo makes it by the Ferrari of Pizza Dog into 7th, so we will see if he can close that gap to Lieutenant Spartacus before this race is over. We are now, at lap 6, not 7. That was a mistake on my part. Ooh, and Daniel Bontempo getting a little bit loose there coming out of Eau Rouge at turn number 4, coming up the hill. Carried a little too much momentum. That's another thing that can really throw you off through that corner, is just the pace. And if you get those curbs and the rumble strips just right, it can easily throw the car left or right, and that can easily throw you into the barriers. Both drivers getting very, very lucky with their contact on the last lap. And it looks like Farmer Ginge up front has slowed his pace maybe a little bit here. He's now 3 seconds ahead instead of 4. So Link's Worst Nightmare has started to close the gap up a little bit. Meanwhile, here in 6th place, our closest battle to the front of the grid, Lieutenant Spartacus is 6.5 tenths, now 7 tenths back on Muffin Brand. And it looks like Dirty Liberal is wide. That is going to be at turn number, looks like between 13 and 12. May have been right at the exit of 13. Looks like just an isolated incident. No positions gained or lost for anyone back there. And Daniel Bontempo with a 3-second penalty for corner cutting again, or track limits. Actually, looks like straight up corner cutting. So SD Bookie also with a 3-second penalty again. So they are now at 6 seconds. Meanwhile, Moises in 13th with a 3-second penalty has nothing to worry about, as Original Paulie is 20 seconds behind Moises right now. On board with Lieutenant Spartacus here through Eau Rouge. Oh, and he goes offline, loses it into the grass. Looks like he did kind of bump the wall, but not enough to really damage the car. Pizza Dog's going to go by. And here comes Daniel Bontempo. Let's see what happens. Looks like Daniel goes by without incident and does take over 7th. So we'll see if there's any sort of repercussions here between these two in the closing 2 laps. And this is going to be something we're going to want to watch. Hopefully we just get some good clean racing, but some hard racing between the two of them. And the rain continuing to fall here. Meanwhile, Ishkabibble has fallen to 3rd, Scavenger in 2nd, Link's Worst Nightmare in 4th now. And Scavenger's taken over that 2nd place now, about almost 5 seconds back on race leader. In fact, there is 5 seconds as we speak. Muffin Brand now catching up to Link's Worst Nightmare in 4th. So we'll see if Link's Worst Nightmare can recoup this at all late in the sprint race here. And this will set our grid for the feature race. So if you are new to F1 or unfamiliar with the sprint race format, the results of this race will be the grid for the start of the feature race, which will be coming up here shortly after this race. As Farmer Ginge officially takes the white flag to start the final 8th lap. And in fact, as Tekka calling that out in chat, Link's Worst Nightmare has some front wing damage, and we are actually seeing DRS enabled. So conditions drying up here for the final lap. This could be interesting. Link's Worst Nightmare is more than a second back, so he will not get DRS here. However, Muffin Brand may have been under a second at the detection line. And in fact, yes, he was. That wing is wide open now, so he's going to close that gap up here down the straightaway heading into turn 5. And down to about 7, make that 6 tenths, 5.5 tenths, 4 tenths. So it's going to be close here in this closing lap. The only other DRS zone is going to be at the exit of turn 19, and there's not a lot of distance from the exit of the turn to the start finish line. Meanwhile, right behind this is the battle for sixth between Daniel Bontempo and Lieutenant Spartacus. Muffin Brand trying to look to the inside going into turn 10, does not make the move wisely there. Very dangerous spot to try to overtake, especially on the inside. And Muffin Brand at 2.5 tenths and 3 tenths now. Daniel Bontempo now catching up to this action, so we may see a little bit of a battle here for fourth place. Link's Worst Nightmare holding on to fourth as we speak. And Wubby's 210 with a 3-second penalty for track limits. Daniel Bontempo gets by Muffin Brand. And, oh, gets a little bit loose there, almost into the back of Lynx. The back end of the car breaking loose. This is going to be a very, very close one. Oh, we've got contact. Lynx trying to stay out of the way, but he will manage to go through. Lieutenant Spartacus with a 3-second penalty. And Daniel will come across officially in fourth, but with his 6 seconds of penalty time, he will come across in eighth officially. Muffin Brand will get awarded fifth, Pizza Dog in sixth, and Spartacus will come across in seventh after his 3-second penalty as well. So a very wild finish there for a number of drivers. SD Bookie burning out, maybe? Not exactly sure what SD Bookie's doing here. A little celebratory, even though he's in... Oh, no, he ripped the front tire off the car. Looks like he did cross the line, but I'm not sure exactly what was going on there. A little odd to say the least for the Aston Martin. We will chalk that up to, I'm going to say, technical difficulties. And Pizza Dog with driver of the day. Rightfully so, I would say, after that here in the sprint race. So our official results from the sprint race is Farmer Ginge starts on pole, comes across in first. Meanwhile, Scavenger starts in, gosh, I believe he started in fourth, and he will come across in, there we go. Scavenger starts in sixth and comes across second. Ishkabibble started seventh, comes across third. For Red Bull, the Alfa Romeo of Link's Worst Nightmare up 1 spot from 5th to 4th. Muffin Brand from 9th to 5th. And then rounding out our top 10 is Pizza Dog from 12th to 6th. And Lieutenant Spartacus drops from 4th to 7th. Daniel Bontempo from 3rd to 8th. Wubby's 210 from 10th to 9th. And Dirty Liberal up 4 spots, 14th to 10th. So a very solid performance. That will be our grid going into our feature race